On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with Aaron Kucherawy from Commonsku about being a rising star and helping people with change. Well, hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I'm your host, Kirby Hasseman, and I'm so excited today. I'm joined with a rising star, Aaron Kucherawy from Commonsku. I love his title. It's Manager of Customer Success from Commonsku. So you are in charge of my success, Aaron. Thanks for joining me, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to be here. I'm almost as excited as that intro was.
It's what I do. Hey, so you were recently honored in PPB magazine in our industry on the list of rising stars in our industry, and so that's pretty awesome. And I wanted to congratulate you. So it's a great list of amazing folks. I was really impressed with the whole list of folks this year. What do you think of this honor, and what's it like to be nominated by your team?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a really cool honor for me. I came from a totally not in this industry job before. Yeah. Last year, I was lucky enough that I was also on one of PPB's list of most powerful partners, yeah. Which I was nominated by one of our clients, which is super cool because clients, interact with them on a daily basis. But really kind of cool honor. It was cool to be there and meet other people who are past rising stars and kind of see where they're at now. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who they're either running these massive suppliers or distributors or are a massive kind of part of those companies now, which is really cool for me to see. And to be nominated by Mark Graham, of all people. You obviously know Mark Graham. Actually, the first person to ever be on this, he told me. I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay.
But yeah, for Mark to nominate me and to be nominated by my team is awesome. I'm super lucky. I've had a lot of clients reach out and congratulate me on that. And I've said the same thing to all of them. I'm super lucky to be here. The staff here at Commonsku, Mark and Catherine, make this really easy for me to be successful. And to be honest, like yourself being a client of ours, you guys make it really, really easy for me to be successful in my job. So it's a really cool kind of thing, and see my face in the magazine. I'm surprised Mark doesn't have it somewhere in his office. This is actually only my second time ever in here, so I don't really know what's in here or not.
Yeah, do not open a lot of the drawers. Yeah. Well, congrats, buddy. So I was thinking about your role, and I think it would be a challenge because you're in charge of helping people sort of onboard into a new software system. And, people would say, okay, well, whatever. But I feel like it's a huge change for a lot of people. And so how do you manage that challenge and maybe their frustration for you and for them?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about changing softwares, it's almost like moving, right? Like you wake up in the morning and you get out of bed and you're in a totally different room and your whole routine is thrown off. And that's exactly what it's like when you change softwares. I think it's always interesting for me to talk to distributors, and everybody's nervous. It's a scary thing to change over, but you're looking to change for a reason. So for me, working with distributors and getting them to transfer over into Commonsku, there's a couple things I usually try and do up front. I try and set their expectations that, hey, you're not going to click into the system and understand what to do the next day. It takes a little bit of time.
Sure. And
with having Joe and Bree and the other staff here, we do a really good job of doing some hand-holding. It's a big change for a company to change their entire process. So we try and make sure that they know that we're here the entire time, that they can email us, call us, that we're happy to set up calls and jump in and kind of show them the ropes. So really through setting expectations, trying to calm the nerves as much as we possibly can, and acknowledging that it's a big change. But I think letting them know that we're here and showing the success stories that we've had kind of will ease people down a little bit.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. One of the things that I always say that it's really hard to measure, but it's something that when you get it, is intent, right? Like when I work with you guys, the quickness of your response, well, you can measure that. But I also think at the end of the day, you guys just want to get it right. And you can just, I can't measure that, but I know it when I see it.
Man, the number of people who come over from either kind of legacy systems, or they're using, Excel sheets, or I've actually had a client say that they threw out 12 filing cabinets after they moved over to Commonsku, which is that's like a win for me. And like you said, not something that's really measurable. We don't measure success in the number of filing cabinets somebody throws out. But at the same time, that's a win for me, and to see these companies coming on and me kind of helping them and teaching them the process, and then they're on for a year and they're starting to add in more reps, or they're starting to grow, and seeing them, especially when we go to something like one of the industry shows, and I get to see them in person, and they're super hyped up to see me or Joe or somebody, because they're you have made my life so much better. That's kind of the personal joy for me.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. Okay, so you've answered two of my questions. I got one more for you. So when somebody says rising star, I always think fairly youthful, right? And so early on, what's the best advice you've ever received in your career so far, and why was it impactful?
So I actually had somebody ask me this question before, and I had a couple of answers run through my head. The first one I was do I go with the funny answer? And I'm go with the Talladega Nights, if you're not first, you're last. Or do I go with a classic Canadian answer, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take? Gretzky. And I got to quote Wayne Gretzky, but that might be a little bit too Canadian. I actually think one of the most interesting pieces of advice I've ever got was something I got here at Commonsku from Catherine, and it's not really a piece of advice, but more of an understanding about business, which is looking at opportunity cost. I think that's such an interesting way to look at things. Everybody gets really tied up in real dollars, real physical dollars, and they don't look at their time in terms of dollars. And this is something that, being a software company, that we are hey, we're going to save you lots of time. And some people say, but you're going to cost us money, and trying to weigh that out with people. So I think for me, being here and trying to help save people time and in the end save money, I think that whole concept was something that I didn't really think about before in previous jobs, but something that is such a massive part of our system and my day-to-day life here. One of those things we talked about, being able to quantify how much something is worth. You can kind of quantify time, but it takes a little bit of effort to figure out how many hours and what that's saving you in terms of dollars. It's not something that people see kind of reflected in the bank immediately. So it's this really kind of cool, I guess, term or idea that Catherine's kind of passed on to me.
Yeah, and what I love about Catherine too is that she doesn't not everything has the same value when it comes to opportunity costs. I've recently seen her talking about, well, these things over here, those are dumb to measure. And so it's so I think that's important to note, and I think it's great advice. So
she'll definitely tell you if something's dumb to measure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, she will not shy away.
And that's appreciated. So, okay, cool, man. You've answered my 3 questions. I give everybody a chance to ask me a question. Do you have one for me?
Okay, so I got so many. When you told me I get to ask you one, I had so many questions. So
ask me whatever you want.
I'll ask you one real kind of business question, which is, so as a rising star, one of the questions they asked me that I answered in the PPB magazine was what changes or what do I want to see kind of happen in the industry? So mixing that in with what I do here with the technology side of Commonsku and streamlining businesses, where do you see kind of the future of technology going in the promo industry?
Okay, good. That's a great question. So I would say I sort of feel like our industry is going to go in one of two ways in the next 5 to 10 years. So people, and both are technology based, I think. So one is e-commerce. So the folks who are doing e-commerce and they're fighting based on price point, they're going to continue to become more efficient and try and become more and more Amazon-like. And I think the other successful model is to become more of an agency and to essentially provide additional services, which is the road I'm trying to go down. Is not only look, we want to be competitive on price, but we want to add graphic services, and we want to be more of an ad agency. And from my perspective, you need technology based on both. Commonsku helps us do this side, and then if you want to go the other side, you're going to need a tech piece too. There are some hybrids out there, and some really good ones, but I think for the most part, those are the two angles I think that the industry is going to take.
Yes. Now, the other question I was going to ask you, which was, what is the worst business decision you've ever made?
Oh, what's the worst business decision that I've ever made? I think certainly I've made my fair share. I think almost all the times that I have made mistakes in business, it's because I've thought too much of myself and let my ego get in the way, and I've not thought enough of the people whose opinions I value. And so, it's so funny. I recently had an experience like I really respect my wife's opinion on these sort of things. Well, I asked her something recently, and she gave me an answer I didn't like, and I got mad. And I was like, well, that's counterintuitive, right? I think that having a group of people around you that you really trust their opinions and listening to it is super valuable. So I'd say that there have been many times, I won't say many, but half a dozen times in my life where I was like, I'm going to bang my head against the wall and I'm going to make this happen no matter what everybody tells me. Yeah. And I think that those are when I've failed. It's like I've made whatever it was happen, but it was destined for failure to begin with because I didn't listen to the people whose opinions I really value. Is that not super specific, but that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. That's
cool.
That's a good answer.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you taking the time. We will we'll be seeing you very shortly, and we will definitely do this again sometime, okay?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. That wraps up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.